Welcome to the third installment of the Keeping Your Business Healthy series. My name is Pat Hammond, and I'm the director of the New Hampshire Business Guild. I'm joined today by business strategist and supply chain analyst, Dr. Cynthia Kalana-Kaminsky, president of Process and Strategy Solutions. In the last episode, we looked at how a minor shift in focus can help you rethink an existing product or service so you can stay relevant, rise to new challenges, and create new opportunities in this challenging environment. Now that you've started shifting your focus, you're probably wondering, what's next?
Well, Pat, I'm glad you asked because that's the topic of this session. You've probably heard, and let me paraphrase here, never let a good disaster go to waste. Well, COVID-19 is the disaster, but the bigger the disaster, the bigger the gold nuggets that are there just waiting for you to find them. And that's what we're going to look at. You've shifted the thinking about 15%, and now you're starting to get fabulous ideas that all of a sudden bring all sorts of excitement. They make you feel like you're going on a new adventure because if you do this, then there's something new to uncover, new to explore, new to learn. This is what's going to be keeping your business going and healthy, and it's going to be laying the groundwork for the future. But, and this is a big but, you must make sure that you stay objective because at this point, and you've probably heard the saying, the shiny object syndrome, at this point, you're vulnerable to it. By being objective, you start to look and bring reality into it. That means you're starting to uncover the risk. And once you are objective and start finding the risks, as you start to develop your solution sets, you must compare it against what the customer needs and values, which means you must know the customer. Now, if we look at manufacturing today, this is a car assembly plant. You can see all sorts of metal structures. Cars are large items. They have to bring a lot of cars off the assembly lines each and every day, fully ready to go right out to the distributors so that they can be sold. You can see that there are people on here. They're not always 6 feet apart. There are multiple lines. There are multiple things to do. And it's like this throughout the entire shop. There are different people in different locations doing all sorts of different things. There's a lot moving in here. But all of a sudden, COVID-19 strikes. And all of a sudden, well, things are slowing down a little bit. The sales aren't coming in quite as rapidly. We don't have to produce that huge number of cars anymore. And then people start being allowed to go home and wait until everything gets picked up. Well, what in the world can we do? But then a call comes out. A call for help for personal protective equipment because we just don't have enough of that here in the US. And we think about it and we say, yes, we can do that. Look at all this capability we have. Look at the expertise we have. Look at the experience that we have. And we quickly start to jot it down because we have all these things that we can do that we're excited about, that we know can solve the problem. We also know that there's need. That means someone wants to buy it. And if we're not selling cars and we can sell the personal protective equipment, what's not to love about that? You can dream about it. You can see it in your mind. How could you possibly get stuck? What could possibly go wrong? This is something that's made in heaven, right? But if you don't look for what could get you stuck, then you're not going to ever see it until it's too late. What we're talking about is trying to uncover the things that could get you. So just take a look here at the two different pictures. The one is our car assembly plant, and the other is some personal protective gear. One is huge, the other is small pieces put together. One has, yes, small parts in it, but usually they're brought in as what are called sub-assemblies. And then you put those together in the final assembly plant into the body and you pop off a car that's fully ready to go. Here in the personal protective equipment, it's small. And so we may be making all of those sub-assemblies. And now our big welding robots aren't going to do fine-tuned little assembly. So how do we start to think about this? It doesn't mean that we can't do it. It means that we must think through all the things that could be gotchas so that we don't let them get in the way if we choose to pursue this. So these are what we call the risks. And these things start to force us to look at what is going to change, what's new, what do we have no capability of doing right now, and what's the cost? How much cash is it going to cost? What are the resource costs? The people, the software, the systems, whatever else it is that resource wise this new endeavor is going to take. And how much time is it going to cost? Because disasters don't last forever and the timing is crucial. So as we're looking at these great ideas, we can't fall in love with them too soon. We have to make sure we look at them objectively, evaluate what it really takes to get it up and running, and then figure out, can we do it in the time that's required? But as we're going, remember the third piece that we were looking at. We can figure out what we can do internally. We can figure out where the risks are internally. But if we don't know who the customers really are, what they value and what they require, not where they live, not just how much they make, but the values that they bring to it that we can satisfy, that's what they really need. If we understand that and then we understand the timing, we can take our internal view, marry it to the external view, which is the customer, and come up with a true solution that people are going to buy. What this means then is if you're working in an agile project environment, which this will probably end up being in, you're going to have to meet regularly with the customer on something that's going to move this fast. Perhaps it's going to be weekly. If you're agile, you may just embed your customer so that you don't have to wait for a formal meeting. They're right there. You ask the question, you keep going. This allows you to resume or review assumptions as we're going through. Well, can we use this material instead of that material? How many per week versus how many do you think you need per week? What about this design as opposed to the design that you gave us? All these questions and sometimes big and sometimes small little nuancy things can be looked at and evaluated right away, which means you're constantly filling what the customer needs so that when you get to the finished product, you don't have that time that you must take to then go back from the very beginning and start all over again because something was missed.
Cynthia, if I can
Huh?
just break in real quick, I had a couple questions.
Absolutely.
The first one is you're talking about large manufacturers. In
Hmm.
your example, it's an auto manufacturer. Is this process something that can be used by a small business or even a solo entrepreneur?
Absolutely. The rules are the same, whether it's a product or of a service, whether you're large or whether you're small. Your team is going to be a different size and it'll probably have different people in it. But the same things have to be asked. What are you capable of? And where are the risks? If you're a service, you may be asking about what type of access does the customer need? What are the deliverables they need from my learning, even though it's being offered remotely? What's the look and the feel of the digital product that I'm making for them? There's still the same type of tell me what it is that you're really looking for that's going to get you excited and is going to fulfill exactly what you value most in the product.
Okay, and I know the answer is going to be very different depending on the business and the product or the service,
Yes,
but what
yes.
kind of timelines are you looking at here for, say, a
It,
medium size?
it depends on the starting point. If you're doing something very similar with a lot of commonalities, it may be just some tweaks. If you're looking at a very large chain, and at this point, you're probably not going to want to put in a lot of automation, which means most of it's going to be done manually. At that point, what is it that you're going to buy and what is it that you're going to put together? And who has the expertise to create the processes? Because remember, this is now vastly different than what you've done. Who has the expertise to come in and create the processes that will start to link all the pieces together and follow as well, and we haven't talked about this, any regulatory requirements that might be embedded?
Oh, I hadn't even thought about that when they talk about the companies doing the medical equipment. And yeah, certainly there's a lot of regulation with that. So, I mean, basically, then it depends on the size of whatever it is you're doing
The type.
and the type
Hmm.
of product. So
And
if you're actually manufacturing something that's going to take a lot longer than if you're just retooling a slide deck for a new customer.
it's where is the starting point and how much commonality is there? And that's why you want to look at the risks, because that uncovers how different you are. You do want something that has commonality with what you've got so that there's less training involved in getting everyone up to speed and producing high quality goods on a continuous basis so that you can get it out the door. And this is service as well as manufacturing. So as we review this careful thinking that we're doing, that is the way to your success. You do want to list the pros and the cons being the risks. It doesn't mean that you have to live with them. It means that now that you know them, you can change them. You also want to be very careful about not solving things immediately. A lot of times, as we're going through figuring out what we can do, coming up with ideas, we start saying, this is something I know how to solve. Oh, we could do this. It's so cool. And we start putting solutions together before we even understand the problem fully. We need to have that brainstorming time. We need to bring out all the solutions so that you get a holistic look at everything. And then the solutions that come together are much, much better and much, much fuller and meet much more closely from the start what the customer is going to require from you. Because if you don't meet the customer requirements, doesn't matter how much money you've spent and time you've spent, you're not going to be able to move the product or the service. If you're looking for your gold nuggets, we're here to help you through thinking of what it is that you already have, finding those commonalities, and then finding the golden opportunities in a 20 or a 45-minute session. And you can go and sign up for that at aligningstrategy.com. On that same page, down at the bottom, you'll find handouts and recordings as well.
Thank you for attending this installment of our Keeping Your Business Healthy series. If you are having trouble finding your gold nugget opportunities, you can find handouts and other videos in the series at aligningstrategy.com. To connect with Cynthia about business strategy and supply chain solutions, you can reach her at success@processstrategysolutions.com. And to connect with me about New Hampshire specific issues or help with technology, marketing, or communications, I can be reached at success@nhbusinessguild.com.